I don't know what. I'm in the weird position. I was thinking, I don't know what I would do if I was a consort and all that bored. But it's like, yeah, I also wouldn't be a consort. Not a position I could occupy. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Stoneface Reactions. I'm Theta, and we are back with another episode of the Apothecary Diaries. First things first, we have a comment, Kelvin from the Patreon, from the episode Serving in the Outer Court. Do people think that Jinshi is the Emperor's younger brother? People talked about the Emperor's younger brother before. A reminder that the younger brother line we've heard before from episode 6 was from Aelin saying, "The rumor is that the brother is too sick to leave his house." We've been dropped hints that Jinshi is hiding his real identity. Episode 7 and episode 8 convos with Gaoshin and Jinshi. So I think it's safe to assume that everyone, barring a select few, believe Jinshi is just the eunuch overseer of the rear palace. I believe I had typed a response to this before, so I'm essentially reading that back. I've referenced the fact that Jinshi was hiding his identity from conversations he's had with Gaoshin and the hairpin before. But when I mentioned the younger brother being mentioned, the thing that comes to my mind is the garden party, where it's mentioned that the younger brother left early. Jinshi is found wandering around outside the garden party later. That's the connection I made back then. The thing is, I actively do not remember what you're talking about from episode 6. It's not even in my notes. So it's either something I have completely missed, or... No, I'm just going to leave it there. It's something I apparently have completely missed. I don't know. This thing about the rumor is that the brother is too sick to leave his house, because I do not recall that being said. Which is weird, because I feel like I am so on the ball with most of this stuff. But maybe that's before I had the opportunity to be constantly taking notes about this stuff. I don't know. I am at a loss that you're bringing up a thing that I don't have a note for. Anyway, the board. Not a big change. I have literally just added these two characters, and that's it. Like, there's not even a connection to them yet, because they are... Well, I guess technically I could have connected her to Maomao, now that I think about it. Well, no, I should. The fact that all the court people are on the bottom of this particular side of things, and that Maomao's way up here means crossing through all these other lines. Anyway, I could have attached her. She does at least bonk Maomao in the head, and is with the other group of court ladies. Him, though, he has not connected to anybody yet, although I do have a lot of notes about him. The opening breakdown that I said I was going to do, and I apologize for that ahead of time. Anyway, that is really the only thing, because board changelog added the new monocle guy and court lady. That's all the board changelog says. So, that said, we do have notes. Not sure what was being discussed in the opening scene of last episode. Jinshi asks the Emperor if he is serious, showing us that we've been thrown into the tail end of a conversation already in progress. The Emperor made a statement, then responds to the question of his seriousness, asking what Jinshi would do if he was serious, acknowledging that Jinshi is in charge of the rear palace and overseeing his consorts. Then, in Jinshi's internal monologue, he oddly tears himself down on an intellectual and physical level, implying that he is only slightly better than a regular person. I think back to his spar against Basen in the first half of the show, and how I specifically noted that he was better than him. He even calls out Basen's bloodline, the Ma clan, and compliments him on it, making me think that that meant something. So this internal monologue feels more like self-deprecation than truth. At the end of which, he tells the Emperor, "It shall be as you wish," meaning that whatever they were talking about before is going to happen. And now I have to puzzle out what that might be through context. Just an observation on matters I have literally no place in making, as I'm both dense and blind in most cases. But what physical traits does Jinshi share with the Emperor? The conceit is, of course, that Jinshi is considered to be his younger brother, so if you were looking for inherited traits, you'd be looking at the Empress Dowager and the former Emperor. We've only ever seen Anshi, and fortunately, she's got the purplish hair and eyes that Aodu has. So, in that respect, it's a fairly convenient switch. The Emperor, however, has red eyes and black hair. I wouldn't be surprised to find out that if we did see an image of the former Emperor, that he'd have the red eyes too. It just feels like a big visual tell to say that Jinshi hasn't inherited all of all the feminine traits of the line, and the Emperor has all the masculine ones. Especially if you move on to consider that Jinshi is actually the Emperor's son, in which case he inherited nothing of his father's looks, and again, only his mother's. Alright, on to the bit that I apologized before. Those of you who don't care about any of my insights into the opening, or the new opening, you're probably going to want to skip like 10, 15 minutes ahead, because the vast majority of my notes here, for some reason I ramble like crazy about the opening, so here it is. Okay. New opening breakdown time. We get Passing Grass, I assume to be the carriage ride representing the passage of time, as we see flashes of Maomao from previous in the season overlaid onto it. At least I think it's from previous in the season. It's hard to tell. The first shot is of her in consideration, braided hair and seemingly flanked by other people all around her. And it doesn't seem like she's wearing her normal outfit. Again, hard to make out with the opacity. And I got a note here, Theta from the future. It was her getup from when she was a normal serving girl, like Zhao Lan's. So probably from the scene where Jinshi calls everyone in and holds up a note to see who can read. The second shot seems like it's when Jinshi is buying her out and gives her the caterpillar fungus. Really quickly, right afterwards, is a super ominous, glaring Maomao that I don't recognize, quickly replaced by dressed up Maomao, either from the handoff, the garden party, or the first intro's self-imagination of Maomao. We get into the intro proper, and we see her encountering the outer court ladies, then what feels like a class with all of the consorts. Of course, this shot includes a new consort, which will be obviously meeting this episode based on the next time on. Whatever they are learning, it's very interesting as a paused scene. Maomao seems energetic as teacher, but all the consorts and their head servants have different reactions. Li Shu is reading intently, while Kanan seems to be interestedly reading over her shoulder. Gyokyo is happy with whatever she got, and Hung Liang seems less interested than Kanan does, but also reading over her shoulder still. Li Hao is blushing at whatever she's seeing, and her head maiden seems put off by it. Quite clearly, Maomao is either going to join a firefighting unit. Sorry, I'm saying here, I think I skipped something. Li Hao is blushing at... Okay, never mind. Li Hao is the one, the blue one. I forgot for a moment. Quite clearly, Maomao is either going to join a firefighting unit or accidentally start a fire, as we see her in front of a building that has burns all over it. And specifically soot coming up from every hole inside of it. with its doors taken off and laid bare inside, with soot rising from its position on the wall, the door's position on the wall, implying that it had been taken off of the frame while still on fire. Either way, Maomao and some other guy are throwing buckets of water on a third man who is on fire and was holding a box that is currently mid-combustion. Maomao seems to be wearing a secondary coat that she doesn't typically wear, maybe meaning that she was here on purpose. There is a very strange scene where Gao Shun, Suren, and Maomao are all gathered in front of Jinshi in his room with tired or concerned looks on their faces, very hard to read. However, what's beside them on a table is reminiscent of the colored fire planks mystery from earlier. A number of bowls filled with powder, some pieces of wood, a mystery bag, and something bound up in cloth. Letting the scene turn a bit more, Maomao is holding something in her left hand, and the way her right hand is elevated, I guess that she is putting something on Jinshi's face, and that everyone is reacting to what they see. We then see Jinshi standing, I'd guess from the scene before the opening, to Jinshi getting up in the morning, as we see later in the episode. Jinshi and Gao Shun eavesdropping on a wall, and then, oddest of all, Gao Shun restraining Maomao as Jinshi shoves food into her mouth. Maomao is holding chopsticks already, and there are small dishes on a nearby table. If I had to guess, I'd say it's probably a shot meant to be misread. Knowing the characters, I'd suspect that Maomao is eating a poison, and that Jinshi is taking it away from her. Gao Shun is restraining her from eating more, and the excited expression of Jinshi's face is for her to cough up the rest. We had two random characters in an alley eating a food on a stick. I say random, but I think one is meant to be a younger Jinshi based on a hair and that bulb thing that he wears. Also, really blurry in the background, I want to say Aodu is back there. To be honest, my first thought was that Jinshi was in the background, but thinking this kid might be Jinshi is what led me to thinking that's Adu, keeping an eye on her son from the street. I'm not sure who the green-haired girl with Jinshi would be. Only going to throw this out there because of a previous note. Whoever this Ma clan is, one of them. Also, since I think this is from the past, green-haired girl couldn't be Maomao, but Maomao does have green hair, meaning this is going to be some sort of connective tissue insight into how or why Jinshi views Maomao the way he does via past relationships. I'm going to be honest, I had to pause the next scene to take a screenshot and then zoom in on that screenshot to make sure. The blue flowers that are in a room are in the new guy's room that we see from the end of the last episode. I don't specifically recognize the room, but I paused just before the camera rotates around the vase, and the guy behind the vase with his head in his hand has the monocle thing that the new guy wears. So whatever the visual metaphor going on represents, it relates to him. I suppose I could have just waited 2 seconds, after the flowers wilt and fall away, the camera literally pans through to show him there. But such is my level of trying to dig out clues from the opening. Interestingly, it pivots from him to someone in ornate dress and painted nails playing a game of Go based on the game pieces in their hand. Maybe Mai, from the later context of the episode. The fact that we then pan back to a new guy who seems all out of sorts seems to imply something is going to happen related to that. We also get Maomao standing in an illuminated area that, based on the background buildings behind her, might be the line between where she is allowed to be in the military district we see her on the edge of in the last episode. Then back to the game of Go, with the same dressed up person moving pieces, so was right about that. Except in transitions to what seems like a shot of someone in bed playing the same game with rocks on the bedsheet. This is the hand that I called leprosy the first time around. I don't know why I keep doing that. Given camera perspective and the transition, I want to say the implication is that the same person playing before is the person now. There is also the shadow of someone with very unruly hair in the upper left of the screen. I know it is way too early for this, but given all the context clues from the opening thus far, is Maomao going to get burned in a fire that Maomao is then going to try and solve who done it? I know at the end of last episode I was putting together the talk about Maomao being able to retire soon enough and our new guy having this overlapping interest that they would share. Is the shot of him freaking out because they do wind up meeting and he's all out of sorts due to what's happened to her? Is that the visual metaphor of the blue flowers wilting with him in the room with his head in his hands? The image I have of Maomao on the board does have her in a blue dress. The next shot is someone with a blue skirt giving someone else a blue flower, or hairpin. Though the show seems to establish that giving a hairpin is a male endeavor, so no real clue there. Unless I'm right about the whole Maomao thing, and this is just the start of that. Harkening back to the vase of flowers. Swiftly transitions over to someone painting their nails, red sleeves. Going to assume they are in front of a mirror and not a picture. If so, then the very blurry image in that mirror has that Hua Dian thing that we talked about back in episode 6 notes. Plus hair sticks coming out of both sides of their hair. Going back to the Maomao teaches the consorts part of the opening, it could be the new pure consort, as she seems to have a number of those accoutrements. There is a shot of a smaller hand gripping a chest with flowers between them. At first I was thinking heart attack, but this show has a predilection of people holding each other back to front. The fact that the arm is so brightly colored versus the subdued chest colors, I have to think this is a moment of emotion or romance. Also, someone clearly faking their death, or we've got zombies now, as someone emerges from what appears to be a coffin. An open doorway to a room filled with ministers and someone standing one floor up in front of a steaming something. The look back would seem to imply that it's Jinshi, not in his normal attire. Then we are back to that hill that I mentioned before that Maomao was at near the end of last episode, except now we have someone standing there that's dressed like the girl from the flashback scene of the opening. And I'm just now thinking this, but doesn't that also look like the same outfit that the tall girl from the Outer Palace Court Maidens wears? She's also got somewhat green hair, right? I couldn't recall if I implied it or not, but I certainly thought to myself that this was going to be a my friend died and you remind me of her situation. But I guess it's entirely possible the girl from back then could just be this girl. That the hill is a shared place for them, thus why Maomao sees her coming back from it at the end of last episode. So maybe a story about why it didn't work out, positions in society, Maybe Jinshi really is a eunuch. Anyways, then Gaoshun poses for the camera, apparently keeping everything under his robes, by which I mean the dude is jacked, and he wears pretty small robes for it. Go figure the next character to be shown would be Pa Rin, the one infatuated with muscles. Then Maomao going through drawers, also wearing not just the blue top I mentioned from the board, but a blue skirt matching the scene from the blue flower earlier in the opening. And then Joka, just being Joka. Gaoshun and Suren looking to camera. Gyokyo plays with Lingli, who has grown up so much. Shot of Li Hao, I think, reading the book that Maomao was teaching from at the start of the opening and blushing about it. Li Shu's soul leaving her body, likely very connected scenes. The new pure consort, alone by firelight, glancing to camera. I was going to take a crack at the flowers of the opening, but much as I've said before, I got no clue on this. I must have spent a quarter of an hour staring at the animated flowers and looking at flowers native to China to try and match anything up. Was a futile, wasted effort, and I report that I came back with nothing. That is my breakdown of the opening. As I said, skip it if you want to, but it bears a lot of what I think this arc is going to be. And hell, they might have literally spelled everything out, because I have very definitive thoughts about everything that's going to happen in the arc. Obviously, that doesn't mean that I think I know everything. They could have storylines unrelated to the things we got shown here. But I still have more notes, so. Well, literally the first scene after the intro is Maomao in the drawers, exactly where she was in the intro, getting stuff for Maomao. Maomao refers to the rear palace as a garden, the same way that the Emperor does. Maybe it's just the common vernacular for the place, but just something I noticed. I mean, maybe I'm being a bit flippant, but what did Dad mean by what I wonder? Sorry, what did Dad mean by that I wonder when regarding his do what you like statement? I could just be putting words in his mouth, but my first thought would be to how they broke his leg and kicked him out for something he might not have had anything to do with. So he could harbor some resentment for the place that somewhat ruined his life, but also held his daughter captive before. Granted, there could be even more backstory on the table to give greater context to his relationship with the rear palace, but that's where my thoughts are on his opinion of it right now. I like the dynamic between Lo Men and Maomao, or at least what I interpret of the scene. Maomao watches him at the fireplace and decides he's cold, and it's her last night here for a while, so she cozies up to him, despite him calling her a baby. Then Lauman talks about how they'll be lonely again, which really feels like he's talking about himself and how he'll be lonely again. Maomao deflects by saying she can come back anytime she wants this time, and Lauman reassures her that she can come back anytime she wants. I feel like she was ever hesitant about wanting to come back home. This is probably unrelated or unconnected to anything, but Gao Shun mentions the military quarter being on the east side of the outer palace. I had previously made a guess that Gyokyo was on the east side of the inner palace. It was also the wall that Fuyu has been was dancing on. Directions. I keep hearing directions and thinking they might be something. When Gao Shin is showing Maomao around the palace, they literally stop at a longhouse that is the same as the one in the opening that gets set on fire. At the end of the episode, it also appears to be the same place where the pipe is being delivered. I wonder if it is of any interest of connection that the Minister of Water had medicinal herbs in his yard, especially when invoking the fact that Lao Men likely planted all the medicinal herbs to be found in the palace. A more conspiratorial mind might then think, or begin to think, that anywhere with herbs might be somewhere Lao Men had been, and thus be able to tie a bunch of characters together by where Lao Men was, or who he was talking to. Again, leaning towards a greater Lumen conspiracy. If I'm right about my opening breakdown and ideas, then that would explain why the tall court girl wasn't up in arms like everyone else that got on Maomao, as she'd already have an existing relationship with Jinshi and wouldn't be as bothered as everyone else trying to get as close to him as possible. And my final note here. So, sandalwood could be used in aromatherapy or religious practices. It's essentially an all around item. So, just knowing that it's involved with the tall court girl doesn't really give any clues as to Maomao's notice of it. Not to me, anyways. I suppose the pipe at the end of the episode could imply that the bitter half of it could be tobacco of some sort, that she was in the presence of someone that mixes sandalwood into their tobacco. I'm also just now realizing I didn't put this in the note, but I'm going to say it out loud anyway. The implication could be that she's visiting someone that requires medicinal stuff, right? She could have been visiting someone sick or hospitalized, and that could be the source of the scent. And I guess therein the bitter would be what other medical stuff they're being treated with. Either way, that is the end of my near half hour ramble about last episode. And again, the big section about the opening. I do look forward to see if my thoughts about the opening are right. But that said, though, I suppose there's nothing left to do but to go ahead and hop on into it.
But before we get started,
make sure that you hit the like button,
hit that subscribe button,
comment down below to feed that algorithm.
On top of all that, if you want to watch more shows like this, unfiltered,
uncensored,
and uncut,
as well as some early access stuff,
you can check it out over on the Patreon.
It's just $5 a month, but hey, no pressure.
There's zero pressure in order to do that. It's just a little bit of extra support, and it would be greatly appreciated.
Alright, speaking of the opening, I mean, I don't really know that there's much I can talk about the opening here for, considering I just did, again, like a 15-minute breakdown of it specifically. But I do feel, and granted I am the one who wrote the notes, so I might be a little bit biased on this, that I'm completely right about everything portended in the opening. Although granted, now to think about it, Jinshi also wears a blue robe, though I think the blue robe in the opening is darker than Jinshi's. And the element that we have this vase here with blue flowers and then somebody with a blue skirt handing a blue flower seems to me to indicate that it's not Jinshi handing, say, Maomao a flower. I didn't investigate the hand that's holding the flower either, but I have to say that it's probably a my / new guy relationship happening. And I think my is going to get burned in a fire. And that he's going to be all upset about it. I don't know where that goes. Like, obviously, I don't portend the entire arc or anything. But it feels like that's what's being indicated to me vis-a-vis the opening. I don't know anything about flowers. So she's gonna be the pure consort, right? Oh, no, that's Li Shu, isn't it? No, Li Shu is the virtuous one. I wonder what makes them pure. Assuming that they're going to adopt the same moniker. Oh, she doesn't fucking care about stuff. That's not a good first sign. Also just got here and seems eminently tired of it.
本気ですか？もちろん。せっかくマオマオが戻ってきてくれたんだもの。
Are we back to court politics?
高級と違って海底はろくに薬草が生えてない。少しずつ増やさないと。
シャオマオ掃除を頼んだのは執務室じゃなかったかしら。
すぐ行きます。
I mean, specifically, Jinshi said that I'm not going to have you do any servant work.
手強い。
どういうことだ。そう。
失礼します。
Is everyone sending for Maomao?
ザクロ級に新しい宿費が入ったことは知っているか？
ほう。いなくなったアードー妃の。
I really need to take a note about the names of the pavilions because I keep forgetting and I don't think I have, like, it specifically jotted down.
教育をしたいそうなんだが、お前に講師をしろとのことだ。
Like I say, right in the opening, first shot. One of the first shots.
何が冗談だ。推薦人の名前も書いてあるだろ。
推薦に？
もう一通ある。
リファ様まで。
I mean, it did save her life, essentially. Oh, and then
あれか。
I assume taught her what a boob job was.
頼んだぞ。
二人の妃に頼まれてはさすがに無視できない。ご丁寧に報奨の額まで書かれていたし。にしてもババアかなりふっかけてるな。今のうち。
この2が講義で使う教材か？
はい、こっちが請求書です。
Are you hoping that Jinshi doesn't know what things are worth?
やっぱり手強い。バーヤがいる限り坊ちゃんをカモにするのは難しそうだ。
中身は何だ？
大事な教材を見せるわけにはいかない。
わかった。見ない。
Sorry, I do love Cat Maomao. Which I guess sounds weird because it's cat, cat, cat.
徹底的にやる。
Like if I said Nico, Cat, Maomao.
この感じ。妙に女臭くて落ち着く。 ずいぶん集まってますね。
授業の噂を聞いて集まったんだろう。言っておくが、授業を受けるのは上級費のみだ。用のないものは下がるように。
It's weird to be so infatuated that you love it when the guy tells you to go away.
Ikemasen.
なぜだ？
授業を受けるのは上級費のみとおっしゃったのはjin士様です。くそ、見た目の割にがっしりしてる。
Yeah, like you said. Oh, and obviously this is the scene where he is listening at the door from the opening. Everything is explained in the opening.
玉葉様、相変わらずお綺麗だ。本人様も特に変わりないようだ。
Clearly she's up to something. I still don't trust Gyokyo.
まあ 他の上級妃が3人もいれば無理もないか。あの毒味役の次女がそばにいれば以前よりはマシだろう。リファ様もほとんど前の豊かな体型に戻って体調も良さそうだ。あの次女はおしろいの時のそんなに警戒しなくても。
I mean, you nearly got her killed.
新しい宿妃ローラン妃か。南国調の派手な服は趣味か。
Southern, huh?
顔立ちは北寄りに見え
I
る。
recall Gyokyo's family is foreign, but also from the south.
年頃からして帝のお手つきにはなりそうだ。高級のバランスが崩れることはなさそうだが、ま、どうでもいいか。
The fact Maomao is saying who cares makes me feel like it's going to be vitally important.
これから皆様にお教えするのは女の園における秘術ゆえ他言無用にお願いします。それでは教材をお配りします。
Okay, that explains the blushing and soul leaving the body stuff. She's teaching them brothel techniques. What are they tying in the back, or are they just opening the book for the first time? I guess if any two of them didn't need to read it, it would be the pure and the virtuous consort, because... yeah, I just don't know the difference between pure and virtuous. Yeah, there we go. Listening at the door.
わからんな。ご苦労。長かったな。
こいつ聞き耳立ててたな。どうしました？
You get slapped in the face?
これは一体どういう状況だ？
Did I forget him getting slapped in the face?
ここをこうして。無理、絶対無理。リス様。言われた通りに抗議をしただけです。それでも推薦人の2人には喜んでもらえたみたいだ。
Well, yeah, you didn't teach the new one at all because she didn't pay any attention, it seems.
最後まで何を考えている
And she was looking at Jinshi, obviously.
だったな。好きに使ってくれ。
なあ、どんな授業をやったんだ？
後日、帝に感想を伺ってください。
おい。
I don't know what... I'm in the weird position. I was thinking, I don't know what I would do if I was a consort and all that bored, but it's like, yeah, I also wouldn't be a consort. Not a position I could occupy. Explosion. Results of the pipe? Is this a pipe bomb? Literally?
やめておくか。
Same longhouse. There's the pipe. There's our new guy.
ラカン様、こんなところに。何か気になることでも？
いや、何もないよ。
At least our new people are getting named. Well, if that's the fire, then I guess maybe I'm wrong about Maomao, because she clearly wasn't there.
くだらない法案だろうと無視するわけにいかないみたいだし。いい紙だから売れば小遣いになるんだけど、燃やすなんてもったいない。ゴミ焼き場、軍
シャオマオ、外は寒いので。
Is that the same thing that I saw her in when I was talking about her joining the firefighting squadron?
宦官にしておくにはもったいない。
これはジン様からのものですので、私はただ渡しただけに過ぎませんので。
そうですか。芸女に綿入れ1枚渡すのにも許可が必要なんて。
I don't believe that either of these two are eunuchs, actually.
ジンシ様。
気にするな。
I cannot believe that the Emperor would make his younger sibling a eunuch. For that matter, his son, actually, but you know.
やっぱりめぼしい薬草はどこにでもあるタンポポかヨモギくらいか。冬場で見つけにくいとはいえ、この辺りにも種を植えておこうかな。あ、マンジャシャゲ、ここにもあそこにも。球根を水にさらすとうまいんだよな。毒抜きを失敗すると腹痛で苦しむ羽目になるけど。リハク様だ。帯の色が以前とは違う。
Oh, Belly Cow? I can't recognize this guy on his own. Oh, is he the guy who was getting his on fire in the opening?
私が解雇されたこと知らないのか。リハク様、六召喚三姫の一人、パイリン姉ちゃんに惚れて女のために出世しようとする愛すべきバカなところがある男だ。パイリン姉ちゃんを呼ぶには平民の半年分の銀が必要になる。高くてそうそう呼べないもんな。六召喚にはカムロ相手によく茶を飲みに来てるらしいけど。
Maybe I misrepresented Gao Shun flexing, and it's actually Li Hao. Li Kao, rather.
通い詰めてるんだろう。頑張ってるんだな。
なんだ？
いえ、今は高級勤めからとある御人の部屋付きになりましたので。
部屋付き？誰だそんな物好きは。
ええ、物好きですよね。ところで、お取り込み中では？
ちょっとな。この季節には珍しくもないボヤだよ。火元がわからないってことで借り出されてるんだ。
原因不明。
Interesting that Li Kao is an investigator.
怪我人は？
Does flesh out his character a bit more, so I appreciate that.
命に別状はないが。おい、あんまり近づくなよ。
わかりました。そんな話聞かされて首を突っ込むなと言われても。隣の小屋にまで届いたすす。建物の周りに。
I imagine there's gonna be some sort of problem since she's not supposed to be over here anyway. Said that. Said explosion.
なるほど。火付けの疑いありと見てるわけか。下っ端役人ではなく、李白様が出てくるのもうなずける。そこらの倉庫ならともかく、ここは帝のいる宮殿内だ。この国はおおむね平和であるが、
I hope at some point they give us an actual layout of the palace.
稀に異民族が襲ってくるし、飢饉や干ばつもなきにしもあらず。他国との和平もいつまで
Don't get too close, and now she's walking inside.
異国の中には不満を持つ者もいるだろう。炭？いや、焦げた芋か。もったいない。
So they burnt food stores?
ということはここ
Are they trying to create a food shortage?
象牙細工？キセルみたいだな。
勝手にうろうろするな。
キセル？爆発、食料庫、キセル。
So totally separated from her body that she didn't even.
おい。聞いてるのか？
聞こえてますよ。聞こうとしないだけで。燃えた倉庫には
It's the clue.
こちらと同じものが置かれていたんですか？
ああ、奥から古いものを入れているらしい。
これ。
So the most flammable?
いいんじゃないか。
あとこれも土とノコギリ、あと釘も必要ですね。
何する気なんだよ。
ちょっとした実験です。
Yeah, this is the thing from the opening.
妙に手慣れてるな。
貧しい育ちなのでないものを
Because
作るの
that's clearly Li Kao is holding a burning box. That's a box.
それ小麦粉だよな。
はい、倉庫にあったものです。
これでいいですか？
それとお願いした火種は？
こちらに。
ありがとうございます。
わけがわからん。
準備できました。危ないので離れていてください。
はい。では。
So why would Li Kao grab the box if it suddenly goes on fire?
リハク様、危ないですよ。
何が危ないんだ。ジョーちゃんが何しようと武漢の俺が危ないものか。
わかりました。危険なので重々気をつけてください。すぐに逃げてくださいね。
あ？逃げるって何がだよ。
Okay, unlike the opening, he's not holding the
だか
box.
ら言ったのに。
それで何がどうなって爆発したって。
原因はこれです。
小麦粉。
はい。
Okay, well, I mean, that expresses that, what's his name, Lock-in is as smart as Maomao at the very least.
火種はこれかと。
キセル。
人目を盗んで一服するため中に入ると外気が流れ込んで粉が舞います。そこでキセルに火をつけると。
Yeah, but wouldn't there be a dead body in the room? That was the case?
結果、爆発が起こります。倉庫番の方に倉庫でのタバコはおやめくださいとお伝え願えますか？
んなことよく知ってるな。
以前、6章間で間借りしていた部屋を吹っ飛ばしたことがありまして。
お前。
のバカ娘が！
あの時のババアは怖かった。
しかし、
Keelhauled from a building.
不思議なもんだ。
世の中、不思議なことはほとんどない。不思議というなら、それは知らないだけだ。風邪をひかぬよう気をつけてください。引いたら、花町のローメンの薬がよく効きますよ。
Since you're going out that way anyway.
気がないからな。ちょっとくらい営業活動してあげないと。パイリン姉ちゃんに会いに行くついでにでも寄ってくれ。では、仕事に戻ります。
あ
あ、これ持ってきちゃったな。
Don't steal
きれい
evidence.
にして新しい吸い口をつければ元に戻るか？売ればそれなりの金になりそうだ。というか、倉庫番が持つには立派すぎる。もしかしたら大切なものかな。
Now, you look guilty.
泣いて返してやるか。
You're carrying the evidence of a crime.
くそ俺だったくそ。
That, I think, correct me if I'm, well, so I would say correct me if I'm wrong. Don't correct me if I'm wrong, because that would be a spoiler. That was the same guy, crap, what's his name? Sorry, sometimes I do go look back to the board to remember names. Was that not the same guy that was in the room when Conan, died to the salt, ingestion, right? I swear he's the same guy who left the room in the middle of the conversation about, having to get rid of people. Implying that if I am not just going complete conspiracy theory on this, he's part of the conspiracy, but he's also, as of yet, an unnamed character. Obviously, when it comes to notes, I do remember I have notes about that guy. specifically his eye color, which I don't remember offhand now. It just very much that looked like the same face, and it also looked like the same room where we saw Conan die. I don't know what the other guy's talking about. Probably I'm worthy too. Probably talking about one of the girls in the Vertiger's house. Everything in my head's now coming back to Maomao, so probably Maomao. Not sure. That last shot though looks like Lock-In is going to confront Maomao, or Maomao's going to be doing something, and Lock-In is going to be there in the room, and then, have a conversation, which is good because it feels like they're two characters that are on par with one another. Well, I don't even know about that. Lock-In. Well, we don't know what Lock-In knows. He reached down, had powder in his hands, and we assume that then he figured it out, like, immediately. Whereas Maomao seemed to have gone through this whole Sherlock Holmes mind palace thing to figure out eventually. Like, we're talking, like, he figured it out in a minute and she figured it out in 10 minutes, sort of thing. Like, not nowhere near the same level, just seemed like he got there quicker. So he might be able to figure her out, where she doesn't even think he's a thing. But we don't even know what the thing is, right? Is he part of the conspiracy and that's why he's a problem? Or is he someone like her that already just exists in the Rear Palace? Very much seems like the other guy who's marching around angry would be the guy that we just heard think, I'm on the level 2. Although, he could be part of the conspiracy, and again, a conspiracy that I've completely still made up. Fake conspiracy, but still something that might exist. That he wants a greater position in said conspiracy, and thus is ranting about that. We still don't actually know where the location of that particular drinking hall is, because we saw it before when Conan died. But we've never been there. That could be in the military quarters, a place we haven't been to yet, so thus haven't seen. That's just also very surprising to me how much stuff I pointed out from the opening literally just took place. Like, I would say 20% of the opening has already happened now. Yeah. I don't know. A lot of stuff that I'm thinking is just self-congratulatory. I don't think I have actually much to say about the episode itself. I think that's going to have to be relegated to notes because most everything I said happened in the moment. So, there it is. That said, though, we do have Maomao's notes section to go through because new arc, still more of that. So, let's go ahead and hop on into that.
Maomao no Hitorigoto. 久しぶりに高級に戻れたと思ったら上級妃の講師をやらされるとは。
I think I did it to one of them once.
ご苦労だった。
jinshi様の様子から察するに帝もご満足いただけたようだ。
他言無用の秘術とやらどんなものか私にも少しだけ教えてくれないか？
なりませぬ。
Would it do you any
そん
good?
なことより妃たちをドロドロに溶かす術を教えてほしいものだ。
例の武官には秘術を教えたと聞いたぞ。
武官？李白様でしょうか。あれは秘術でも何でもございません。
Don't remember you teaching him anything at all.
マオマオの豆知識。小麦粉は山積している状態で点火して
Are you talking
も
about the
爆
explosion
発する
thing?
ことはない。
It's not really a secret
粉塵
technique.
として舞った状態で点火すると粒子間の隙間に酸素が行き渡り、粉塵から粉塵へと燃え広がり爆発を引き起こす。李白
I feel
様は
hesitant
親
about
騒ぎ
teaching
の原因を調
possibly
査されて
kids
いて。
this.
随分と仲がいいんだな。
はい。今の話をどう解釈するとそうなるんだ。
先日の里帰りも李白とはずっと別行動だと言っていたが、やはり
面倒なことになる前
This
に。
really feels like a huge conflation of actual
次回
facts.
ナマスガオシュン様より謎解きの依頼を引き受ける。
Okay, a little bit more information, specifically that Gaussian is the source of whatever is going on next episode. Yeah, again, a little hesitant about. I guess it's technically out there. One, it's on the internet. Kids are on the internet. Two, I think I've seen this in other shows too. You know, throwing flour at a candle or something. I don't know. I guess technically this is also a weird show for kids, but then at the same time, who the hell knows anymore? Who really knows? Yeah, no, I also think it's pretty weird that Jinshi is conflating teaching Likao tricks as though the explosion that burned his eyebrows off was a trick that he learned. It feels like he heard a little bit of information and then expounded upon it into insanity levels, which is really a meta-narrative for what I'm doing to this show, considering that I am adding so much to this show that itself doesn't exist, like all of my conspiracies. At the same time, though, I do feel like I'm vindicated a lot, because the conspiracies turn out to exist. You know, everything I said about Jinshi turned out to be true, so... That said, though, again, it's weird, because I come into this episode with 30 minutes of notes, and then at the end, I don't really have that much to say, because everything confirmed my notes, but at the same time, I feel like there's so much more there for the next time notes. So, I guess that being said, I'm just going to go ahead and leave this episode here. So, once again, I have been Theta. This has been Stoneface Reactions. We will catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another Stoneface Reactions. If you have an idea of another video we could go ahead and watch, go ahead and put it in the comments down below and we'll add it to the wheel. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what you thought about this video and what parts you liked. And until then, we'll see you next time. Is this too goofy?